Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm so excited to be today with Owen Perry, which is someone that I truly admire. And I told you that he launched this new book that actually changed my life, my business life, the way that I see the business. He's someone that did a lot of things in my country, Mexico. So I feel honored that he opened the doors of his house so I can interview him today. Thank you, Owen. Thank you for saying yes.
Yes.
Saying yes to this interview because I know you're really busy, but also saying yes to writing a book. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. And thank you guys for watching. So let's start with the first question that I have. What made you write a book?
What made me write a book? It was something I did. I think the first time I got the idea about it is I did a golf course in Baja, a new golf course, and I did this big promotion for it. I had Don Felder of the Eagles, play a show. I had Byron Scott of the Lakers, do like a talk about the Lakers years, and I brought about 30 press people for sports. And, there was a couple of journalists there, and it was a gentleman. He worked for the Washington Post as like a side business, and he was a writer also, and he's the one who sat down with me after the 3-day event and said, "Owen, I think you got an interesting story, let me write it with you." And I said, "Okay, sure, why not?" And it just didn't, it worked a little bit, and then we just didn't have, the right connection, I guess, because what I would tell him about what I thought and what he wrote was completely not me kind of thing, so we just let it slide. And, I always felt that I had something to share inside of me, you know? And I felt that way all the time, and then I found, this ad called Scribe. Scribe was a company out of Texas, and they did the whole thing for a book. They had everything really well organized, and then I did it, and that's how we ended up with the book.
How do you feel your entrepreneurial, your life, your journey has changed before and after calling yourself an author?
Not much. Not much. Like I say, it wasn't, my number one goal in life. I have a big business. In the resort business, we have very successful resorts all throughout Mexico. I built the only TPC branded golf course in Mexico too. So I've been very busy. I just felt I had a lot to share about the story of my life and how I learned the things that I learned to be successful because I never went to college. I never had that opportunity.
When you became an author, you never experienced like someone coming back at you saying, "Your book did this for me. Your book changed this perspective," or "Your book literally helped me." I mean, you have over 100 reviews on Amazon with people saying your story made them see the world differently. And that was my experience also. Like when I've listened to a lot of books, when I listened to yours, I was like, okay, this is different, even though it might sound the same as an entrepreneurial journey. It was different because it's your story.
Um, I haven't, the book's been out, what, 2 years now? And, it just sold organically 1,000 copies, and I never wrote a book before or did anything in the business, and I appreciate working with you, of course. And, so just now I'm starting to get the accolades of what people are saying about my book. I never really looked at it before. I never really looked at the Amazon reviews. I mean, once in a while I would, you know? But I just never had the time to absorb it and to say what's next with it?
And we're talking about 1,000 lives because there's like 1,000 people who listen to your story and something happened in their minds and their hearts because listening to the book is around 5 hours of someone's time. It's like a short trip to I don't know, to New York from here. Um, if you're reading it, it probably took him what if they're not really into reading 6 months of their lives to actually digest every chapter. So I'm sure there has been an impact in those 1,000 people. Have you thought about 10,000 people, 100,000 people being impacted by your story? I don't think you did it for that reason, but have you ever thought about it?
Well, I've enjoyed success in my life, and a lot of the ways I'm, regarded as one of the best golf course owners in the world now, and so I have been successful in a lot of other areas of my life, and I think writing that book gives the essence of what I did to be successful, and I think I communicate that in a reasonable, intelligent way, and not overly descriptive words or things like that, but more plain language, I would say, and I think that's what people appreciate, and what I'm getting now is people know that I'm successful, and to share what I've done along the way, because a lot of people write a book and, they haven't personal success, none, but they write a great book. But I think what people are learning now is that I am a very successful person, especially in Mexico in the tourism business. So, I think now people are reading it more because they say, "Wait a minute, maybe this guy does know something."
Maybe.
Maybe, you know?
The years of experience, of course, right? What was your motivation to write it in Spanish? Because I hear we're going to have this interview translated to Spanish. This conversation's in English. And if you speak English, that's great. But this conversation, it's going to be translated in different languages. We're trying to do first the Spanish and then French and then German. That's our objective. But what made you write this book in Spanish? Because you have the English version and now the Spanish one, was it me pushing you to put.
Well, you brought the idea up, and, it's something that, I work with a lot of Mexicans, and I've worked with in Mexico, for many, many years. My Spanish is still not, very good, but, I can get by. But I just felt that there's a lot of people in Mexico. What I found is, working internationally all my adult life is us human beings, we're all the same, no matter what country we're from. We want our kids to grow up in a nice place. We want a good education. We want them to be safe, and I saw that as the essence that all human beings in this world have. We speak a different Spanish, I mean, different language. We have different holidays, but basically we all have the same desires in life. And I think the essence of my book is the basics of that, you know, because, one of the first things I learned, when I was working out of high school, I thought, okay, out of high school, now what am I going to do? Let me go out there and see what kind of job I can get. And the only job I could get was in a factory. And, going through that job for the summer, and, every day I went there, I just saw, the generations that worked there, and they had, I go, is that my life now? It kind of shocked me. And then one day it just came to me is like, listen, Owen, nobody's going to come and help you. And you got to start helping yourself. And for some people, that might be a negative, like, oh, nobody's going to come and help you, poor you. But I thought that it was so liberating for me because instead of somebody that coming to my life and take me away from this horrible place and, who is going to do it? And then one day I'm driving to work and it's a rainy, dreary day and it's horrible. And it just came to me like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to come and help me. And that to me, even today, is the biggest part of my success. Even today, when I have problems or something like that, I got to take care of myself, not in a negative way. And, I take care, I will help people and sooner or later you do get help from a lot of people. But I think that first step in your mind is you have to say, I got to take care of myself first. Nobody's going to come take me from the bottom and bring me to the top.
What are the things that people can find in your book? Where are the chapters? How do you decide every chapter? You want to tell me a little bit more about it?
Well, basically, it was how I evolved to where I am today from the beginning. Like I said, I was out of high school on the East Coast, United States, and I get out of high school thinking, "Oh my gosh, life is great now," and the only job I can get is at a factory, So after that, then, moving to Hawaii and, you know, thinking like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be great," and the first job I had was as a promoter. It was a promoter for real estate, and you had to go out on the street and promote, like a presentation to people, and you got like $20 for everybody showed up. And I go, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be rich." And then I go out to Waikiki, on the streets of Waikiki, and there's somebody like every 3 meters with the same coupon passing it out, and they're all on the sidewalks, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what did I do?" But I thought of like I say, I said, "Okay, I gotta take care of myself. Let me come up with a way," and I came up with a little promotion where I didn't instead of just giving the coupon away and letting the people walk, I would hold on to the coupon, and I would stop them, and I would talk to them. And all of a sudden, I would get actually people who show up because I had a chance to talk to them more, and that was the basic part of my success in Hawaii, was just that one thing of not giving it away, but holding the ticket. I would hold the coupon and not let it go. So, it's like, if like, here, I'd grab it, I wouldn't let it go and say, "Hey, how are you today?"
People wanted the
"I
coupon.
have a you" No, because they didn't know what it was, but then I was able to explain to them what it was, and they become naturally interested, and that's how I started my marketing career.
And yeah, so another thing I wanted to mention, you actually opened the door of the house, right? Like, and I told you, I thought you were just going to, click. I've been to other houses where they just click, let the person get in. And to me, those are like this, they say the devil is on the details, right? Are you someone that is always looking at the details? Like you said, the water this plant, look at it. And I think that's part of the success. You're really not.
Well, it goes way back. It goes way back, though. Like you say, so I was in Hawaii and I was there, like over a year, and I was just making enough money because it's an expensive place to live, between the rents and, the food and everything.
Is it more expensive than Mexico?
Oh, yes. Hawaii,
Like
Waikiki.
Cancun and Cabo?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Because there, everything has to get shipped in. There's nothing they grow in Hawaii. Everything has to get shipped in from the mainland or wherever. So yes, it is more expensive, and the rents are more expensive. Um, but anyway, so after, and I was working for this company, it was like a marketing company, and, they would do meetings with us and do some training. And they said, "Okay, you gotta have a goal," I said, "Yes, yeah, you have to go home, get a magazine, and cut out the car that you would like to own." Because I wanted like a nice Porsche, in Hawaii and drive down that was my dream, yes. Have a nice, maybe Hawaiian girlfriend and a nice Porsche. I mean, I was 21 years old, hey, that's my goal. So I cut it out of the magazine, and they go, "Put it on your bathroom mirror." And every morning, think about, "I'm gonna get that car, I want that car, I want that
The
car." Then
manifestation.
it's just and that's what so about 6 months later, I didn't get a car. It never materialized, and I there was no there was no structure of getting a car. It was just looking in the mirror and it was I guess that's the way a lot of people do motivation, but for me, there was no structure to it. So I didn't it didn't work. I guess I have a more of an analytical mind or something like that. But so I never got the car. So I started, doubting my abilities and doubting myself, and I saw other people my age doing well, and I said, "I'm missing something. It's not the opportunity, it's I'm not doing something right. I gotta learn more of what's going on here." So, I sent away for a book. It was called How to Make Money in Spite of Yourself. And it was written by this gentleman who lost all of his money in the Great Depression and then got it back. And it was basically quotes out of the Bible of like, "He of you wants to be chief, provide a service to the people in need." And basically, once you translated it, it's if you want to make money, you have to provide a service to somebody. Because think about the entire economy everywhere, like what you're doing with me right now. You're providing me a service, right? And once you understand you're providing a service and you gotta you have competition in your service, of course, but if you fine tune it and do it better than a little bit better than everybody else, then they start paying you. And once I figured that out, I've never had to worry about money ever in my life.
But also, Owen, I think it has to do with your talents and your skills because, like you said, we've had the pleasure of working with you in the marketing agency. But it's also, I love what I do, and I think you love being, in the resort and seeing people and serving people and trying to find the way that families enjoy their vacation. In a way, that's also part of the things that you've developed through the years, skills and talent, and also part of your intrinsic kind of motivation of what
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but like I say, yeah, I provide a service, right? And there's a lot of people provide service, but you also have this thing called competition, right? And in the hotel business or hospitality business, there's a lot of competition. You know, Marriott, Hilton, all these people. So how does a little guy like me, you know, become successful in that business? And I had to do a little bit more than the regular hotel chain did, you know? I had to make sure that, all the areas are clean, and all
towels were.
the towels are there. There's no excuses on our part why the service isn't good. When you coming for your 1 week vacation that you've saved up all year for and you want to go, you got your kids with you. The last thing you want to do is go in a dirty room, dirty towels. People don't care. And so I talk to my employees really well. And I say, listen, guys, look at me. When you see your client, look our guest, look them in the eye and smile and say buenos dias or good morning. And, you know, without them, we don't have a job. So let's be really nice to them, because if we're nice to our clients, we give them all the service, they're going to like us, they're going to pay us, and they're going to come back. And that's what I've been able to do well, consistently over the years.
It sounds something simple,
It
right?
is.
But it's not. Well, you have to do it on a regular basis. You have to smile, say good morning every day. You have to have a good attitude every day. That also talks a lot about the corporate culture you created. People call you Senor Owen, and they're happy to see you. We've seen your LinkedIn. People like you post something, people are so happy that they work with you, they did business with you, you let people grow. You also have been a leader based on, again, I have never been in your resort, I've never talked to your staff, but reputation, that's what they say. Reputation is when what people say about you when you're not in the room. So we know you don't actually
Well,
social media.
yes, like I say, we don't treat the guests like 80% or 90% all of our attention and the employees 10 or 20%. We focus on our employees 50% and our guests 50%. So we treat them both equal. Like during the pandemic, just one example, we've done it a few times. During the pandemic, when we had to shut down the resorts, it was the freakiest thing I've ever experienced in my life. It's February. We have this beautiful resort on the beach in Cabo, downtown Cabo. The ocean is beautiful. The dolphins and the whales are out there, the birds, and we have to shut down the resort because of the pandemic. And all we have probably like 4 or 500 employees per resort, and they're all scared. I could walk around the resort and I could see their faces. They were terrified that now they don't have a job, and this thing called COVID, you know, the news back then was like everybody was panicking. So we as a company said, hey, we have some money in the bank. Um, we got to do something here.
What are we?
So what we came up with is, okay, we're going to guarantee our all of our employees um, a 3 month pay. So they get paid for 3 months. We'll guarantee the 3 months pay, and then after 3 months, we'll make a decision what we have to do. And once we announced it all company wide, you could see the relief, in their faces and everything like that. And I think that's the kind of thing that we do from time to time. That we have a very loyal employee group, and not only that, they understand the priority. The priority is not, impressing Senior Owen. The priority is impressing our guests. Leave me out of the picture. Don't worry about me. I can take care of myself. No, but take care of the client. That's your boss. I'm part of here, but so that's how we do it, and I think that really works well.
And I'm sure once, COVID went by and like we moved back to reality, well, by August, those people
And
By August, what happened?
well, we had people come to work and do cleaning and maintenance. It wasn't like you're on vacation. We had them do some work, and it was important because we have resorts; they have to be clean, and everybody was happy with that. Everybody wore a mask. There was no guests in the resort, so it really worked out great. And then,
Give you a time for you to think what you wanted to do next? Was it different? Was it a different way to see what do I want to do next after the pandemic? Because life for a lot of people, it's a before and after
well,
COVID.
what I've learned is along the way that the best time to, if you can afford it and you have the management capability, in Loretto, the islands of Loretto, we had one resort that was kind of new and it had a second tower design to it. We didn't do it yet because Loretto was a very new destination, but we were getting busy. And I said, now the pandemic, this is the perfect time to build that second phase. So the construction work everybody was in said, great, let's start building. We built another 120 rooms and we've designed it to be built in a year, you know, and so we start construction, everything's going good. And all of a sudden we opened up the hotel again. Okay, maybe there's some people coming back. And within about 3 or 4 months from opening up, we're about 60, 70% occupancy
From that new resort?
from all the resorts, even the new one too. And I saw this couple by the pool that were 2 kids, and I just say, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Why did you guys decide to come on vacation? It's the pandemic and stuff like that. It's still not it was pretty much over, but still it wasn't officially over, you know?" And they go, "Well, the kids have been home. We've been working at home for 6 months now, and if we didn't go on vacation, we were gonna start killing each other." Like, "Okay." And I guess it was a sentiment of everybody. Yeah, so now I had the other challenge of building a resort with a tower with full clients, and we came up with a nice way, so it ended up working out.
I want to show you something. This is a conversation we had before we cut. He actually put this one and this one next to, right? And I was like, "Well, you're putting a cup next to my bottle of water." But this is basically what I was mentioning. This is not what you do, it's somehow who you are. What do you think about that? Like, because this is your house and you don't have to, right?
Yeah,
But this is like,
yeah, try open up a restaurant one day because I've always on side I've always had partners in the resorts, but, I always liked a little bit of my own business, so I would have restaurants by myself and maybe with a different partner and, and do a restaurant business one day, and you wanna see how demanding it is to do it right because, restaurants are, a phase of your own personality, You can how many restaurants are there, and what is the difference between one that's doing really well and one that's dead, right? And it's usually the owner, you know? You can have the same menu, you know,
what
and
owner?
the owner is the difference because the owner does like that, has a glass next to the thing, make sure the table's clean when you come in. And, if you're ever in the restaurant business, it's the most competitive business you'll ever be in. And there's no mercy. There's no mercy in it. If you're fail, people close the door, kick you out, and then put the rent sign up again,
Wow.
on somebody else. So
Thought about it.
yes, the restaurant business is probably the most challenging business there is.
So if someone wants to open a restaurant, you would say don't do it, or
No, it's the best thing. It's what educated me the most on the hospitality business. The level that you have to go to find success, you can open up a Burger King or a McDonald's or something like that, and they're good businesses, but it's really a pre-organized business by somebody in the past that created this franchise, and that business model. But I've had Italian restaurants, sports bars, fine dining, and for me, those are the to survive in the restaurant world, you gotta be very active in every aspect of the business,
you know what? Now that you're talking about the experience, because this was an experience for me. Like in general, it is life. We're trying to get experiences from it. Every day, we're trying to find the new, the different. What makes me feel good. And with this AI in this futuristic way people want to live, and we've seen that with our clients, like putting a website up, or like even putting taking a loan from the bank to create this product, and they're creating the products, but they're really not thinking about the experience of the customer. They're just thinking about what they want to do, and they're not thinking about the experience, the overall experience.
Well, I think we all have had that. That's why my book is called Plan E. You know, how many times in my life did plan A or B work in a new business or a restaurant or hotel? Zero, zero. I was like,
I mean, you did.
and what happens to most people, well, I had a mentor, this guy, Graciano Sovernigo, that I worked with in first. He was a very old school Italian. And, you don't borrow money. You keep working your business until you make money. That's what you got to do. Working with him, he took out the emotion of failure, like if you're, oh my gosh, I'm going to go out and do this business, and we get all excited in life, you get so proud, and then you actually do it. You find there's nobody going to help you. You got really strong competition, and everything's going wrong that you ever thought of, right? And so what do? You say, oh, poor me, shut the door, go back to my old job, and that's my life for the rest of my life, right? The reality is that's normal to plan A fail or even plan B. In reality, that is normal. And if you took the emotion out of that, like poor me, you take that out of the equation. You say, okay, what is plan C now? Okay, we did this, we got this going right. This is the part that we need to work on. So let's go here and let's work on this part. That becomes now plan B. It's not like you have to throw everything away and start all over again. So, plan E is by the time your business is working great and making money. Okay. And those are the stages that you have to go to in this real world. Maybe when you have an AI, he'll figure everything out for you. But then, everybody else, the way I think it is, everybody else is going to have their own AI. So, they're gonna have another, you'll be fighting on which plan is actually gonna work, right? So, that's why I came up with Plan E as the title of the book, to let share people that, hey, plan A and B hardly ever work. Ask Jeff Bezos of Amazon, I mean, what he ended up working on. Like I say, so, if you take the emotion out of plan A and plan B not working, I just say, okay, let's keep different ideas. And then sooner or later, with that determination and commitment, boom, it starts happening.
I was watching this interview on YouTube to the founder of Airbnb. So he actually said very interesting things, because he said that his first investor said that there wasn't a market for it. So have you ever encountered or meet people, or that they say your idea isn't as great as you think, and you still went for it? Do you have any time where people said, "No, Owen, that's such a bad idea," and then you still did it and it worked, or the opposite?
Well, like I say, it's just, along the way, um, you do have people that tell you, things aren't right, you're not going to do it. Yeah, I think people love giving that opinion out, but I never really, unless it was a mentor of mine and I was learning something, I would pay attention to it. But if it's just somebody's a comment, I think sometimes human beings in their personalities, they like shooting people down a little bit, especially if they're doing well or something. I don't know what it is. But I just don't, pay attention to that stuff at all.
So you've chosen your mentors. You've had mentors.
Yep.
Besides Graziano, which is in the book. What other?
Well, the other, what I really, like you say, when going back to Hawaii, now is become a marketing, marketing was my career path now, is how do you sell things, selling is marketing. And that was my goal, is how to learn that. And it was such an opposite personality from me, because I thought I was going to be like an electrical engineer growing up. But really, I did. I had that mathematical mind. And then to switch all of that and become marketing, you had to open up your personality, a lot, and to feel people's emotions and what they're doing. So, once I had my career, then I started reading books. because, it's marketing is some of these jobs, these things you can't learn in college. They can teach you, how to do arithmetic and all these other things, right well, but marketing and how to connect with another human being, that's something that the journey of life is. And like Think and Grow Rich was a good book for me because you read it and it says, and it goes, what does the title mean? Think and Grow Rich. And you read the book about Edison and all these people who had money and then failed and had money again. And the story was keep thinking about what you're doing every day. And that's how you're going to create with a plan for success in the future. And, so that resonated, that helped me out a lot, and of course, How to Make Money in Spite of Yourself was, the quotes from the Bible, and the last one was The Power of Your Subconscious Mind is, you have your consciousness and your subconscious as 24 hours a day and has so many stupid thoughts. And
Things in trauma and things.
and these things that and all that stuff, and you just let that go and just, it's learning how to control these, not taking these thoughts. And anyway, so with that also, it helped me to keep growing. So those are my books. Those are my 3 books that really helped me out a lot when I needed help.
Do you still read them? Do you still go back to them?
No, I don't read them. I mean, I'm way beyond I'm way
Your own.
I have my own.
What's your book again? Have you?
I haven't had a chance. I've just been very busy. Um, just been very, very busy these days. Deciding what new projects to get involved in.
Something I that has happened every time we talk is you always have a new project, a new thing you're putting your energy and your time into it. You're passionate about the next thing, the next project, and I think this is also an attitude towards life, right? Like, this is what I've seen, right? Like yes, you're like, Karen, we're working on this new project now, and then that's done, and you're like, great, next. You're like always going to the next and trying to get even like better than the using the knowledge of your previous one. So I guess if you have plan E, you have the whole like A B C D E F G like in different projects.
Well, I learned a long time ago that you have to have balance in life. You have to balance yourself out, especially if you get married and have kids and stuff like that. So, I've tried to balance out my life, and I take nice vacations because what I've seen is, and I did studies on this, is if you take some time off from your job, you can come back and see the details better of what needs to be improved, rather than if you're doing every day, every day, every day, you start getting like tunnel vision. And so I'm a big believer in taking time off. I really am. I make my managers take time off. And to me, it helps you in your job. And to me, I won't take on more projects if it interferes with my quality of life, because I believe quality of life is as important as, having good money in the bank. So I do believe balancing it out. So I do a lot of I get there's a certain point where you work in your career that you gain respect of other people. They know or hear about you, and that's when, like, these newer opportunities are offered to you. And that's what's happening, it's happening in the last few years is that.
And the last time I saw you, that you also were really nice to open the doors out of your yacht. um, I saw that you said like Karen had this morning run. The health is another type of wealth you using, and that's something I saw in other groups. People who actually start, uh, you know, getting all their projects moving forward to the point that you're making money. The next like that you have to look back is like my sleep, my like all
Well,
different things
you know,
longer. So
you have to think about longevity. That's something I thought about early on. I don't know where these thoughts come up in my mind, but I always thought about longevity because I didn't want to have a successful career or a successful project for 2 or 3 years only. And, I wanted to have longevity. So it's always been in the back of my mind, when I do a plan of business or whatever, is the longevity of the success, and, um, and I was Cabo San Lucas. It was the beginning of Cabo San Lucas, and we were opening up a resort there, and I had to move there because my other partner, ran for politics and became the mayor of Puerto Vallarta. So I had to go there by myself. I think it's mentioned in the book. Anyway, it was so stressful because Kabul was small. We didn't have a lot of money. It was a really challenging job. There's no really airlines flying in there. And I was so stressed out that, you know, I could hardly eat dinner at night and will we sleep with things in my mind. What am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about that? And then one day we have a tennis court. And I said, well, a tennis court, let me try tennis. And so one afternoon I went out and had somebody else. We played for a couple of hours. I went home, I had a nice meal, I felt a full night's sleep, I go, "Wow, there's something to this," and I got rid of the stress and that thing, so I started playing tennis, and then if you wanna be a good tennis player, you gotta start running because you have to be fast, and now I'm a pickleball player, you still gotta be fast pickleball, and that's how I wasn't growing up as athletic. I thought I was gonna be a rock and roll star actually in the be
Oh, we can see
You should see my height, yeah,
guitar.
Sammy Hagar is a good friend of mine, yeah.
If you could go back and say, okay, you're gonna trouble the world in concerts or be this Owen Ferry, would you say, let me?
I would rather be who I am today because I meet a lot of these guys, and, if you're successful in any business, especially after a while, some of the rock stars I see after many years get tired of, you know, putting on a show and all. I mean, some of the good ones love it, and they'll never quit. But anyway, I see my life, I got a very stable income, a very stable business, and I really enjoy that stability because it allows me, to take days off and enjoy things, A lot of the scientists are trying to create endorphins now. Endorphins are naturally make you happy and give you environment. Well, there's only two, they can't discover it. There's only two ways: music or exercise. Those are the only two ways that give you
Natural.
natural endorphins, So I really enjoy, and I think working out and staying healthy prolongs your career. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a firm believer in it. There is another phase after, you start having some success. There is a phase you have to go through as far as how you organize yourself, how you pay taxes, how you structure your businesses. These things become very important as well, because they can create a lot of problems for you if you don't do them right, especially today. So yes, I've never really was ambitious to be an author and being a successful author because it was just something, I've been in a training. I've done a lot of training. In the marketing business, I got probably 300 or 400 guys that work with me, women and too. And we do training all the time, and a lot of them are reading my book now. But, we do a lot of training like that. So this book was more about how I got to be a success out of having a normal life. I grew up in a military family with 6 kids, in a small New England town, and to end up being one of the top resort developers in the world, it's a nice journey, you know? And like I say, to me, the biggest thing that I have to say is I didn't wait for somebody to come and help me, you know? I took it upon myself. I took the first step, as they say. And then as you go along, then you start getting help from people because I don't know, that's the way this life works, And that's the biggest lesson I could say in this book is, realize that it's up to you to take control of yourself, and then you can learn anything. Your intelligence, you can learn French, you can whatever you want to do, There's no limit. It's just your ambition.
And this is your story, but I really hope you keep sharing knowledge because I think this is what it is, right? This gets you closer also to the people who doesn't have the chance to sit
Well,
here.
Karen, I have to tell you that one of the other lessons I've learned early on, well, not early on, a little, and probably being a second book is don't bring your ego to work, because you bring your ego to work with you, that's the first day of failure. Because I always ask myself, okay, I know what success is. What does the first day of failure look like? I always ask myself all the time because just so I wouldn't do it, like what is the first day of failure? And I learned the first day of failure is when you bring your ego to work, because that's the day you quit working. You just sit there and expect everything to happen because you're and you quit doing the job that made you success. And so to me, even with this book wasn't an ego thing for me. It wasn't something, oh my gosh, let me share how great I am there. It was more of a personal experience because it was very therapeutical actually, because the way Scribe worked is they had a girl, I forget her name, interview me, for a couple hours a week over the phone, not personally. And I would sit there and I'd be talking about my life, for a couple hours, and then she'd write it up and send it to me the next week, and we'd filter it out. And it took like a year, and by the end of that year, I'm like, oh, I don't therapy. It was like therapy. It put it all together. So and I wanted to share my experiences because, like you say, I read Think and Grow Rich and these kind of books. They really helped me out a lot. They weren't like reading a college course book or something like that. It's just basic understandings. And I did some, that's what I wanted to share. So now, like I say, I do see it trending a little bit and I do see the comments. So now I said, okay, if I have something to share that's positive for people, I'm sure I would do it.
You believed in Mexico before others,
I
and that is something
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you believe in giving jobs and saying, "Hey guys, come here. This is a safe space. I'm safe. You're safe too." So that's powerful.
No, when I got offered the job in Mexico, I went down and look, and at the same time I was getting a job offer by Hilton Hawaiian Village in Waikiki. They have a big operation there. And I said, "Gosh, do I want to go back to Mexico? I mean, to Hawaii and live in the island again?" Or, I looked at Mexico and, the company I work for had a resort in Mazatlan, a resort in Puerto Vallarta, and one in Acapulco. So I got to go to all three of those destinations. And I go, wow, this place is amazing. And it's just opening up for tourism where Hawaii is like mega tourism. And I just saw the opportunity. I says, okay. And really felt comfortable. Everybody that I met, locals would come up to me, hola, mucho gusto.
We're known as a country that always
No, I met, but you get some bad people too. But normally, all the people I've met, going to the palenques and, fiestas and stuff like that. It's just been a great experience.
I want to thank you again for opening the doors of your house to have this interview with me because even with people that had a lot of millions of subscribers, you said, I can't do it. I'm too busy. And you make space in your agenda. I appreciate it. And my commitment to you guys is to keep interviewing people that can help us. I'm on my 30s. I know I can learn a lot. So I think if you're in your 18 or if you're even 80, you can always learn something. And I don't think it's never too late to start, right?
If Why stop? No, to me, like I say, life is a journey. There's always stuff you can do. Like even me, I enjoy cruising around the world. I enjoy mountain biking was something I've never done before, and it's so exciting. It's so much fun.
What?
Mikey, mountain biking, montaña.
Dangerous?
No, it is a little bit, you know, but it's exhilarating, and so there's different things you can always get involved in. So I agree with you. Keep your mind open.
As long as you're alive, you still have a new experience to live,
Correct.
right? Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.